Welcome to the Running the Break podcast with Pacers Insider Clifton Brown. I am Jim Ayello, and we are joined, as always, as we do for the Pacers preview podcast, with fanboy Clark Wade, who is here with us to ask
us
fan
of the show,
fan of the Pacers. So, yeah, on this podcast, we're going to preview the season. We're going to start with a brief look back at the preseason. But like Cliff told me before the show, this is not a show about looking back; it's about looking forward. This is what the Pacers are doing this year. So we're going to recap the preseason. We're going to do some major questions facing the Pacers this year. Some of those you'll see in the Indy Star coming up in the next week or so, but we want to hear Cliff's opinion on which direction the Pacers are headed. And finally, we're going to hear from Cliff and Clark and myself on a few predictions we have for the Pacers this year. So are you excited after the preseason? Did you see what you were hoping to see out of the Pacers out of the 4 games that you saw them? 3 of them with mostly just starters.
Yeah, I think that the Pacers have a little more reason for optimism than they did when the preseason started. They definitely are playing hard. They're playing together. I do believe they have a lot of young guys who are excited about the season, and they feel that they're going to be better than most everybody else thinks they are. Certainly, Domantas Sabonis has been a real nice addition as far as the way he looked in the preseason. The guy can rebound. He has skills. He and Lance Stevenson already have great chemistry on the pick and roll. The second unit as a whole, TJ Leaf played well. So the Pacers do have depth, and they are going to be a team, I think, that, plays hard and that might be a little more fun to watch than some people think. So, yeah, but the flip side is, I think rebounding could be a problem. Yeah. Certainly, we did not see them either in a real game situation as far as 5 minutes to play in a game you want to win. Who's going to be the go-to guy? We know who it was last year. That guy is gone.
Yeah.
So who's going to do that? But I think now that the preseason's over, we'll get a lot of answers to our questions pretty quickly.
So what did you see in the final preseason game before we get to the questions for the season? What did you see in the final preseason game? To me, when I watched it, it looked like they were a little bit sloppy. Saw Oladipo do some nice things in terms of shooting, but was turning the ball over a lot. You said to me, I think before the podcast started, that's not going to change when the regular season starts. He's going to make a few mistakes, and we're going to have to just kind of live with that.
Absolutely, and it's not just Victor; it's the entire team. You got a young team with, 7 out of the top 10 players weren't on the team last year. That means they're going to have to grow and make mistakes along the way. So you're going to see some games where they don't look good, where they have too many turnovers. They're going to have to play through mistakes. I think they've shown a good attitude as far as not dwelling on a mistake. But, yeah, if you're looking for a team that's going to be efficient and clean like some of these veteran teams that have been together a while, it's not going to happen. So, yeah, that makes it more important for them to rebound and shoot well. I was encouraged by Oladipo making 4 out of 5 3-pointers. I think that's one of the keys to unlocking his full potential. If he makes that shot, then he becomes really difficult to guard because we know he's quick, we know he's athletic. If he can become a better shooter, then I think Victor Oladipo will have his best season. So we're going to see good and bad with the Pacers from quarter to quarter, game to game. The question is, can they win some games while they're growing, and will they steadily improve as the season goes along?
I'm glad you highlighted Oladipo there because that's going to bring me a nice segue into the questions I have for you, which was going back to the Paul George trade. They probably had the option of getting a draft pick from somebody. I don't know what pick that was, and we've heard a lot of speculation from both Cavs owner Dan Gilbert to other guys that they could have had a better trade, maybe got some picks out of it. Instead, they opted to try to stay competitive, to try to win as many games as they can, maybe sneak into the playoffs and build around Miles Turner and the man they traded for, Victor Oladipo. This team is clearly in a limbo. They're in that NBA limbo now where they're not going to win a championship and they're not going to tank. They're not going to be one of the worst teams in the NBA probably. Do you feel like with the guys they have currently, the young guys they have currently, they are headed in the right direction, or will this kind of bottom out and they'll end up having to try to build around Turner through the draft later?
The key to that is whether Oladipo and Turner become players for the next 5 or 6 years that are two pieces that you want to keep, that can help you win, that actually get to the point where they can start attracting other free agents here because they're here. And I think the key is Oladipo. I have a hard time seeing Miles Turner not being a pretty good to very good NBA player. I just think he has too many tools. He's got a great head on his shoulders. He's only 21. I just think he's going to keep growing. Victor is much more of a question mark to me. This is his 3rd team. If the other 2 teams he was with thought he was going to blossom to an all-star, they would have kept him. The one thing in his favor when you look at his history is he's been a late bloomer. He was a late bloomer in high school. he was a late bloomer in Indiana. So if he follows that track, then maybe he will. This will be the spot. He loves being here, and I think that he's talking to the right people. Dwayne Wade and others who at his spot have become great players, but it's got to happen. This is the time for Victor to make the next jump, and if it doesn't happen, then that criticism of the Paul George trade will be valid.
I'm gonna make you do the hindsight right now, or at least before the season starts, and said, make your prediction. I guess was this the right move for the Pacers, or should they have tried to get into the lottery and get a pick like that?
I'm with the minority here, in that I think not tanking is right. I hate tanking. I just don't believe it. I mean, believe in it. Philly, everybody's talking about now. They can finally start winning, and look at what they've gone through the last 3 or 4 years. Do Pacers fans really want to go through that to get to where the Sixers might be now?
Yeah.
I mean, people are just assuming now because they have talent and these young players that are going to start winning. There's no guarantee. I can guarantee you they were horrible the last 4 years. So, yeah, I think that I respect the Pacers for not bottoming out. The bigger criticism I had is not deciding on Paul George sooner.
Right.
I thought by the trade deadline last year, if Paul George was still waffling about whether he wanted to be here or not, that was the time to deal him. If to me, maybe means no, no means no. The only way we're not going to trade you is you tell me, yes, I want to be here, because money wasn't an issue. The Pacers were going to pay him, top dollar. So if you still can't tell me after you've been here your whole career that you want to stay, to me that means you want to go. They let him drive the bus, and he drove the bus off the cliff.
Yeah, and they lost a lot of value in that trade. Obviously, when you have a guy with 1 year left on his contract who said he wants to go to L.A., trading him is impossible. And so maybe Kevin Pritchard really got everything he could get out of that trade. But I like that you've taken the minority side on this and said that they made the right move regardless, and they didn't need to go after the pick. So my question now is, in that direction that we're heading, we have this new coach. Everything's new. We talked about this. They have a new practice facility. They have new jerseys. They have all kinds of new stuff, new players, all new faces. Same coach, Nate McMillan. And is he the right guy to be leading a rebuild? And I know they're not calling it a rebuild so much, but kind of trying to grow these two guys. We saw him have some success in Portland. He's had some success with that with Marcus Aldridge and Brandon Roy. Do you think he's the right guy for this job? Because they brought him in to take them back to the Eastern Conference Finals, which is where they were before. That job's gone now. Now his job is to grow these two guys. Is he the right guy?
I think Nate's track record shows that he is, but obviously he's going to have to prove it. Just like the players, it's a collective thing. He certainly, is going to have to show that he can make these players grow as a unit, not just individually. And there's going to be some growing pains. I asked him last night. He was talking about players learning each other. I said, "Are you still learning players, or are you already past that point?" He said, "Oh no, I'm still learning about these guys. Yeah, what combinations to play, who does better in what situations. It's going to be an ongoing process." But he's certainly a patient guy. I think that the players like him too, which always isn't a good thing. But in this case, I think it is. I think Miles Turner really likes playing for Nate McMillan. I think Victor Oladipo believes Nate McMillan believes in him. Mm-hmm. So when you have a young group who can grow with the same coach, you have a chance. Now, if the Pacers, if you don't see the talent that they have getting better after this year into next year, then Nate's going to be a guy who gets looked at. But I think that, in fact, I know he's very enthusiastic about coaching these guys. I think these guys are responding to him. And so, at this point, it wouldn't matter who the coach is at this point. You could bring Pat Riley in here in his prime, and he's not leading the Pacers to a championship. So I believe not switching head coaches was the right move. Let a guy who's shown he can work well with young players before have another opportunity to do so.
How long is that leash then? So say they miss the playoffs or win 35 games or something like that, or they get knocked out in the first round, and you see some growth from Turner and Oladipo. That means he stays, and if they don't see that growth, that means he's gone. Is it 1 year? Does he get 2 years to grow with these guys? How long do you think he gets?
Yeah, I'm not ducking the question at all, but I think you can't. It certainly won't go by a number.
Okay.
Like, okay, if they win 20 games, he's gone. And if they win, 28, he stays. Or I think that you have to look at the players. Are they getting better? Is he still getting the best out of them? And then judge him moving forward once the team gets to a point, in their case, hopefully, that they feel they're heading in the right direction, is he the guy to take you to the next level as well? But, coaching is a very fluid situation. I mean, Chuck Daly, one of the greatest coaches of all time, said to me many times he felt he was always a 10-game losing streak away from getting fired. He said it only takes one, 2 or 3 week period where things go south, and all of a sudden you've forgotten how to coach. So Nate, like all coaches, if you don't win, you're on the hot seat. But I think this year, going in, Kevin Pritchard and the organization feel that he's the right guy to work with this young group.
So, Cliff, that brings me then to my last question. For a team that is growing and the expectations are going to be low in terms of wins, wins are not going to be as important for this team. Sure, they're a sign of progression in some cases. If you're winning, you're obviously probably playing pretty well. But that's not going to be the one thing that these guys are going to hang their hats on, especially Nate McMillan. They want to see progression and development of these young players. So my question for you then is more of a Pacers fan question. We're going to get to Pacers fan Clark Wade's question soon. But are they going to be fun to watch? I mean, I know they're not going to win 45 games. So are they going to be fun for fans to watch, just even if they're not winning games?
If they play a running style, if they're successful in being able to run, get out on the floor, and Turner and Oladipo show that they are, the cornerstones of this team moving forward. I think they'll be, Victor's going to posterize some guys this year. I don't think there's any question. The way that guy leaps and can get out on the break. Miles Turner, I think he's going to give you some highlights this year. But winning does have something to do with that because – if you're looking okay and losing a lot, people get discouraged. Fans get discouraged. I don't think any Pacers fans are coming to Bankers Life this year feeling like, we're watching a championship team, but they want to see a team that plays hard, is entertaining, and I feel they want to at least come to home games feeling that if this team plays well, we have a chance to win the game tonight. And that's why I don't like the tanking thing, because in Philly, you went to games for 2 or 3 years pretty much knowing your team was going to lose. Yeah. And I think that's a hard sell. Well, then why should I spend money to come see my team when they don't even have a chance to win? So I think that how the Pacers start this year is going to generate a lot of either enthusiasm or criticism early, because no one knows exactly what's going to happen. With this team, I think more so than any team they've had since Paul George became a star, who are the Pacers? And I think most people feel, okay, they're not a playoff team, but are they going to be close to a playoff team, or are they really not going to be very good? So I think how they start the year, by Christmas, fans will have an opinion of them, and it'll either be thumbs up or thumbs down.
What I do think about this team, though, is we won't go most nights. You can't guarantee 82 games. But with some guys like Lance Stevenson, like Victor Oladipo, who said he's going to play 110% all the time, is that I don't think there's ever going to be the criticism, as there often was last year, that these guys aren't giving it 100%, aren't playing hard. I think these guys are going to be diving on the floor for loose balls. I think they're going to be kind of going crazy out there. I think a guy like Lance he projects that on the rest of his team. So I think in that way we'll have some fun. But I guess one question I have for you is Lance Stevenson's antics. They're fun. Everybody enjoys them. If they're losing a lot, are people still going to have as much fun with those? No, they're not. And I think Lance needs to cut back on some of that. Certainly, and that's what he's expected this year. But surrounded by young guys, Lance is going to be looked upon to be more of a leader than he has been. But, I think that, as far as the excitement level and, what kind of team they'll be, if people see that they're a better team month to month and are headed the right direction, I think then the response will be okay, because, again, the expectations are low. If they're not, if they're underachieving again, and, I think the players also are enthusiastic about, without Paul being here, the ball, Miles Turner was talking last night, he feels the ball is going to move a lot more. A lot of guys are going to get more opportunities this year. We saw that with Sabonis already, that playing with a guy like Russell Westbrook, you couldn't really see a lot of things Sabonis could do offensively. Now you will. So I think the Pacers players are more excited about the style of play because they're going to be more involved. I agree, and I think what we've seen, especially early in the preseason, is that these big guys aren't having trouble keeping up with the young fast guards. We've seen Sabonis and Thad Young and Turner. I mean, these guys are not having trouble getting down the court and playing fast and getting these open corner threes. So in that way, I think it's going to be kind of fun. But we did touch on Lance, and Lance was one of the guys, I think, at Media Day saying this team's going to have 2 All-Stars. This is before they changed the rules on the All-Stars, but he did say this team was going to have 2 All-Stars. So now I'm going into the prediction segment of this podcast and asking you, how many All-Stars will this team have? And if Is it none? Is it one? Is it two? And if so, if there's one or two, who are they?
This year, I'd say zero. I just have a hard time seeing Miles and Victor are the two, to me, biggest candidates for that. And I have a hard time seeing them progress to the point where they're an all-star this year. Even if they're deserving of being one, a lot of it is reputation. And I don't think that they've built enough of a resume where they would just, supplant somebody who has been there before. If one of them has become an all-star this year, what a blessing that'll be for the Pacers. Yeah. That means that, okay, we have a cornerstone piece for sure. I do believe there's an all-star game in Miles Turner's future. I just feel he has so much talent. His head's in the right place. He works hard. He's a versatile player, which fits his style of play fits where the league has gone. A versatile big man who can play away from the basket, who can shoot. As you mentioned, he can get out on the break, he can defend. I just think his skill set, he speaks to him one day being an all-star. Victor is a bigger unknown. I mean, at that spot, he's not overly big for a guy at that position. His mentor, Dwayne Wade, same kind of height, but, Dwayne Wade is such a great player at figuring out where he needs to get on the court. He rarely takes bad shots. And that is one thing I've seen in the brief sample size we had a preseason with Victor. I haven't seen him take a lot of bad shots.
No,
I've seen turnovers, but I can't really remember him forcing shots. And when your shot selection improves, you become a better shooter. So to me, Victor has shown some encouraging signs this year that he will continue to get better. That this will be his best year. But will he reach all-star level whenever he gets to his peak? That I have a harder time seeing.
I agree with you 100%. I don't think there's going to be any all-stars. But I will say, if Oladipo is going to make that leap, I think we're going to see it this year just because the usage rate is going to be way higher than it's ever been in his career. He's going to have every opportunity to be the playmaker that he thinks he can be, that McMillan and Pritchard want him to be. So there won't be any excuses anymore. There won't be, I was playing next to Russell Westbrook and I didn't get the ball. If it's going to be on him now, and if he turns the ball over too much or starts forcing bad shots because he's not having a good night, we're going to see that pretty early. And there won't
Excellent point, Jim. Neither Miles Turner or Victor Oladipo is going to be complaining about playing time this year.
No, they're going to have plenty of opportunity to do that. So let me lay out a scenario for you for our next prediction. We're going toward the trade deadline, which now is a week before the All-Star break, right around February. The Pacers are, let's say, right around 500. I think it's probably 50 games, so 25 and 25, say. Veterans are playing well. Darren Collison is playing well. Thad Young is healthy and playing well. Bogdanovich is playing well. What does Pritchard do at this point? Not all-star well, but just well enough to contributing to a decent team that may be slightly above expectations, because most projections have these guys as a 30, 32, 33-win team. They're playing slightly above expectations. They're playing well. Does Pritchard start selling these guys for picks, or does he keep them around and see what they can do in terms of trying to reach the playoffs?
Yeah, I think he would consider, trading anybody, strongly consider trading anybody except, Victor and Miles. And I think the guy who comes to my mind first is Thaddeus Young. I think that, the Pacers want Thaddeus Young to have a good year, not only because it would help them, but yes, if they got to the trade deadline and he were playing well, he's the type of guy who might be attractive to a contender where they might be able to get something in return that helps them. So they're thinking young future. The team is already young, so the only two guys who fit in the other area as far as being vets are Thaddeus, Jefferson, maybe Lance, but Lance is already proven. If you move him out of Indiana, right. So
I don't think anybody's gonna be knocking on the door for
that.
Lance
That hurts his trade value. So I could see a Thaddeus Young maybe being a piece around All-Star break that could help them out. But I don't think with this particular group you're gonna see wheeling, dealing. Pritchard, he's definitely shown that he'll make a deal if he sees the right one. But I think this year they want to find out more about these guys together rather than, making a move at the All-Star break just to make a move that might make them 2 or 3 games better, because it's not about this year. Yeah. It's about building for the future.
Oh, I definitely don't see them trading to add pieces. My question was wondering whether or not he would dismantle, and put that in air quotes, the kind of the team that he's built in order to get younger, because they've talked about, they don't want to tank, they want to try to make the playoffs, they want to try to be competitive, and if they were having success, I just wonder if he'd be willing to take that apart just a little bit to try to build for the future. And you think he will? Yeah,
if he can get a draft pick, I think they're thinking young.
Okay.
And it's his though, even though they don't want to tank, if they're struggling by the All-Star break, they are tanking.
Yeah.
Which actually, they're not tanking, they're just bad.
They're just bad.
Which then, that puts you in a position where, okay, yeah, we made this deal. We tried not to tank, and it didn't work. That's the worst case scenario, because that's what all the critics who say, and I understand their thinking, that they should have tanked. Because you don't want to be in limbo, or you didn't get enough for the trade, and now the team's still not going to be very good.
Yep.
So even though you're not trying to tank, you're not good. So yeah, there is a level of play, even though I don't want to put an exact win number on it, that this team has to reach, and certainly a level of play that Victor Oladipo has to reach for the Paul George trade to be considered a success or even a wash from the Pacers' perspective. That is true, in my opinion.
I'm sorry to say, not to create, I mean, there's just no controversy. I completely agree with you on the trade deadline. I think they will make the moves. I think Pritchard knows that he has to build toward the future, and if there's opportunities to get even a second-round pick or to trade Thad as part of taking on another bad contract, if it comes with a pick, I think he'll do it. Honestly, I do, and I think because he knows he has to build around Miles Turner and then, hopefully for him, Victor Oladipo. Last term, and in terms of predictions, obviously the most obvious one is, how many wins is this team going to have? And are they making the playoffs? I guess is that those two probably go hand in hand. Right.
Well, I'll say no, they're not making the playoffs, because if I tell you how many games I think they're going to win, that probably would answer that question. So, and I think 31 is the number in my mind. I think they'll get to 30. I think 31-51 is a kind of good, for all you Vegas people, good over-under number for the Pacers this year is 31 wins. I think if they got to, 35, say, that would be an excellent year. I think that, that wouldn't be probably enough to get them in the playoffs.
No.
But I think that would show a lot of encouragement. And then, and if they don't get out of the 20s, then, obviously they're not very good, particularly in the East. That means that they're pretty far away. So I think 31 is about where they're going to land. And obviously this is a team that cannot withstand an injury, to Turner, or Victor, I would say. They do have some depth, so other spots they might be able to get by.
Okay.
But certainly if anything happens to Miles Turner, then that number starts going down like a thermometer in cold weather.
Yeah, already losing Glenn Robinson certainly doesn't help that win projection. No. But while we're on your predictions, real quick, I do want to go. So then, the Pacers are not winning the Eastern Conference, you disappointingly told fans.
Sorry.
Yeah, you burst that bubble.
Right.
I'm going to 35 is where I settled on. I think Oladipo's going to, I don't know, he's got me believing. I went back and watched some interviews with him in Orlando, in Oklahoma City, and then the interviews that I've conducted myself with him. He seems like a guy he just seems like a different guy. A guy that is really trying to take being the leader seriously, being a different guy seriously. And I'm buying into him taking a step forward. I don't know if he's ever a superstar in this league, but I am buying into him taking a step forward and helping this team reach 34, 35 wins. And I also think Turner is going to be, like as we talked about, is going to develop into a I hate to say, I don't think superstar, but maybe definitely a star in this league for sure. So yeah, I'm going with 35. And real quick, before we'll get to questions in a second, Clark, but I wanted to ask, what's your win total? Because I think you were at 50 last year.
No. I was much higher. I was 58 last year, and I got killed for it.
Oh, my.
Yeah, that's why they call me fanboy on this side of the newsroom.
Yes. So where are you at this year?
I originally told our sports editor, I said 34, but I think it's going to be closer to 32.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm the high guy now?
Yeah, you're the high guy.
Oh, man.
I think they'll be fun to watch. But 31 or about 32.
I keep thinking that the East, so many teams in the East, they're going to have a chance to beat most of the time, and they're young. They're going to be fresh legs a lot of the time. I don't think they're going to be worried about resting guys as much as some of these other teams. They might fall into a few extra wins just because they're not resting guys. I don't know. I'm going with 35. I'm not feeling great about it, but we'll see. So back to the Eastern Conference. Dude, who do you have coming out? I assume it's either Boston or Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, if it weren't Washington, would be the dark horse that I could see as a possibility. I mean, that backcourt I love, and I just think Wall and Beal in big situations they want the basketball. But no, I don't see them getting past either Boston or Cleveland. And hey, until LeBron doesn't go to the finals, I'm picking LeBron.
Okay,
so I think it'll be Cleveland again.
And then Cleveland, Golden State again.
Yeah, I mean, the West is going to be, tremendous. And, I've seen it written and talked about, their Golden State is an ankle sprain away from being potentially dethroned. The key in the West is if something happens to one of their big four, you want to be the team that swoops in and takes it from them. But if those guys stay healthy, it's just hard for me to see somebody beating them in a 7-game series. I just don't see it. So, yeah, I think it's Golden State. And I guess maybe a better question would be, okay, if it weren't Golden State, who would it be? Now, I think that's a really interesting question.
Yeah. San Antonio, Oklahoma City, Houston.
Yeah, I like Houston.
Okay.
If it's not Golden State, I think Houston would have the best chance to get there and come out of the West. But the Western playoffs will be tremendous. I mean, they have been the last couple of years, but I think, this year it's going to be really, really fun to watch those teams hammer each other once the playoffs start.
And Clark,
I had a quick question.
Go ahead.
Sure.
So, what do you think about the idea of taking the top 16 teams overall rather than 8 teams from the East and 8 teams from the West for the playoffs?
Good question, Clark. I don't like it. I like keeping it the way it is. I think these things go in cycles. I know the whole league is tilted west now. I understand that.
Yeah.
And it is kind of unfair for some of those, the teams at the bottom of the West, would be middle of the pack in the East. But I just think, it's a secular thing. I just think that it'll even out, and when it's lopsided like it is now, you deal with it. I don't believe in having 12 teams in the Western Conference in the playoffs and 4, and then the schedule. The schedules aren't balanced. So then to me, you'd have to change the schedule to try and make it more even, where teams are playing each other. I mean, the East, you're playing some of these bad teams 4 times. You got to change that if you're going to just make it, top 16. You're going to have the West play the East more, and then that gets into travel and.
It'd be a mess.
Yeah, I'd say keep it how it is.
All right, Clark, before we get into your questions, I just had a quick question for you as the Pacers fan. Are you cheering for Oklahoma City?
I am not cheering for Oklahoma City. I know one Pacers fan burned his jerseys, all his Paul George jerseys, and wrote a long letter to Paul George and posted it on Instagram. And then 2 days later, he comes walking in my house with a Paul George Oklahoma City Thunder jersey.
Well, that was quick.
Yeah, that was quick. And that's not me. No,
No, you're not going to be forgiving?
No, I'm not going to be forgiving. No.
Well, does Paul write this guy back or something?
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't think he did. No.
No, I don't know what made him change his mind so quickly.
I don't know. It's...
That's fun.
Well, that's a podcast for a different time, I
Yeah,
suppose. All right, so Clark, fire away. You got 3 questions you want to ask our insider here.
So we talked about Lance Stevenson a lot. Why does he work in Indy and not anywhere else? The fans are so forgiving of him. He can do all his antics, and we forgive him. Why is that? Do you know?
I feel that it's more Lance feeling that this is home for him, that where he's most comfortable is where he started. And when he went to other places, I believe that he put too much pressure on himself trying to prove that he deserved a contract or that he was as good as people thought he was or better, that he didn't play his own game and then it got in his head. And once you lose confidence, it always amazes me when a professional athlete in his prime loses confidence. But we see it. I mean, they're human. And he just does not feel as comfortable anywhere else as he does here. And once he started having tough times, other places, it just snowballed. To me, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. But then when he finally came back here, he became himself again. So Lance Stevenson is good enough to play in the NBA and to help you win. Yeah, he does crazy antics. He'll never be consistent, but he's an NBA basketball player. He goes somewhere else, and he sometimes doesn't even look like he belongs in the league. This is just where he belongs, and now that he's here, he obviously doesn't want to go anywhere else.
That's where, and I think to your point, you said this about Oladipo. McMillan believes in him. He's shown that belief, and I think Stevenson feels the exact same way. Is that Pritchard and Bird and McMillan all truly believe in him, and I think he feels that confidence.
It's important to him, yeah.
Yeah, it clearly means a lot to him. I think that's why he came back.
So last year, Miles Turner started the season strong and then just sort of fell off a little bit, and there were high expectations going from year 1 to year 2. Do you think Miles Turner still has a lot of room to grow, or do you think we're starting to see his finished product?
No, I think he has a lot of room to grow. I think people forget how young some of these players are, and except for some exceptions, guys usually don't come in the league and just tearing things up. I mean, Kobe Bryant struggled as a rookie. I mean, he was young, but yeah, I mean, it takes a little while. And Miles hasn't been struggling. I mean, even no matter what you say about his year last year, to me it was better than his first year. And now he's obviously going to get even more opportunities to be the leader of the team. And he's embracing, it's very early, but he's embracing his leadership role. I mentioned all the things he can do, his versatility as a player, his maturity. I just have a hard time if Miles Turner doesn't stay healthy, as Jim said, not seeing him be a very good NBA player. Maybe at all-star level, maybe just a cut below. But no, I think give Miles you won't be sorry if the Pacers hold on to Miles Turner long term. If you're a Pacers fan, I don't think you'll be sorry.
Yeah, it's great. I was talking to my brother about this team, and I said I think they could be good if Miles Turner takes that next step. And he's like, I feel like you've been saying that for years. And I go, yeah. I said it 2 years. He said it, but he's 21.
Yeah.
He's 21 years old. I mean, and this is this is year 3. I mean, it's so early to be. He's got so much more room to grow. And like you said, if he stays healthy, I think we're going to see one of the best big men in the league. Honestly,
Right.
I just feel like right now he gets pushed around a lot underneath the basket, and I think to me he needs to grow physically as well, so he doesn't get pushed around a lot.
Absolutely, and he has put on some weight now. He's not incredible. Hawks. Sabonis is a stronger player than him right now. That is another reason why I think he'll continue to get better, because he will get stronger. He's putting in the time. His body is going to fill out. He's never going to be, I don't think, one of these, cut guys. This is not his body type. Yeah. But we want instant gratification. Yeah. I mean, everybody can't be LeBron. It's just, right?
No, he's again 21 years old. He's still growing.
Right.
He's still growing into his body. We're going to see. This is not the finished Miles Turner product, both skill wise and physically. He's going to be changed.
Absolutely.
And finally, who do you see as the alpha dog on the team? Is it Oladipo, Turner, Stevenson? Do you think it's a collective group effort? Like, who's the leader down the stretch?
That's an excellent question, number one. And right now, I'm not sure, but I'm going to tell you who I think it should be, either Turner or Victor, not Lance, even though he might be. And I think from a Pacers perspective, I would love to see it become Victor. Because Victor has talked about, no more Mr. Nice Guy. And he's a scorer. I mean, Miles is a versatile, very talented player who's going to score, and he may become the cornerstone of their franchise. But when you're a shooting guard, you have to have a disdain for everybody who's trying to defend you. You almost have to be arrogant to be great at that position. You have to believe that this guy guarding me has no chance to stop me. This team trying to defend me has no chance to stop me. And by the time Victor got to be a senior at Indiana, that's how he was playing. He went from being a guy who you knew had talent, who thought he might be able to be a pretty good college basketball player. By his last year in Indiana, he was killing people. He was demoralizing people. That's what Pacers fans, if he could get to that level in the NBA, that's what everybody's looking at. He's a number 2 pick in his draft. That means there was only one guy that is supposed to be on paper better than me in this whole draft class. And to me, you haven't seen that kind of arrogance from him.
Can he flip that switch, though? Because to me, sometimes players, you either have it or you don't. And you can say you're going to be that player, but...
It's another good point, but I think success helps you get it. Like, when you start killing people, then you start believe that you are a killer. Now, some guy, I agree with you, Clark, like, Jordan always had it.
Yeah.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
James Worthy talked about, when he showed up as a freshman in Carolina, they're like, who's this guy think he is? Doesn't he know that we can play too? I mean, he came in, I'm going to take everybody. Larry Bird, I'm the best shooter in the league, period. Who's coming in second in the shooting contest? Yeah, that's the arrogance you need. But no, Victor doesn't have that naturally, but I think he recognizes that he needs it. Yeah, I'm not guaranteeing it's going to happen, but I think for the Pacers, he should be the guy more than Miles on the court who has the alpha dog, because it's easier for him handling the ball to be the guy coming down the stretch, who should shoot. Miles has to wait usually as a fast break. Somebody's got to feed him the ball. For your guards, it's always easier to take, Russell Westbrook, Kobe, Jordan. It's easier for them to take over the game because of the position they play. It would be great if Victor could do that. And hopefully, I think Nate wants him, like he said last night, no hesitation. We'll live with the result. What I want you to be is aggressive. Don't hesitate. Don't even think about it. Ball, come off the screen and shoot it. act like you're the guy. We'll see if he can do it.
I loved last night. There was a situation, and Pritchard talked about this during media day, where he said he had heard from outside criticism that Lance and Oladipo wouldn't work well together on the court because they both need to have the ball in their hands to be effective. And last night, I know it was preseason game,
right,
but it was the shot clock was running down toward the end of the quarter. They were on the court together, and Lance ran to the corner and started yelling at people to clear out of the way for Oladipo. He knows Oladipo was supposed to be the guy on this team. Yeah. They're going to give him every chance to do exactly what Cliff just said. So if he, again, we talked about this before, if he doesn't do it, it's on him because he's going to have every opportunity to be the alpha guy and to be the perimeter star that he thinks he can be. So I just liked seeing that last night. Liked seeing Lance show that kind of. That was leadership to me. Was Lance saying, "You're the guy, go get it."
Yeah, his teammates want him to be that guy. You're right, and I think 2 years from now, we'll know who Victor is. Mm-hmm. The questions will be answered. Right now, I think most people think that he's not going to be as good as people thought he was going to be when he came to the NBA. But I don't think the window's closed. But for him, more so than Miles, I think there's a bigger year for Victor. Yeah. He's got to show after being traded now twice in his career and coming to a team where, like we've said, he's going to have every opportunity. This is his time. This is Victor's time. If it's ever going to happen, it's now.
It's not going to be about work ethic, and it's not going to be about attitude for me. He's got both those now. It's just going to be about skill. And if he's got it, he's got it. And if he doesn't, he doesn't have it. And
right.
Pacers have to find somebody else.
He wants to be great. There's no doubt in my mind. I like him. His attitude. He's like you said. He's going to be over in that new practice facility, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. Yep. You're going to catch him sometimes if you went over there in the gym. He wants to be great. So we'll see if it happens.
Any other questions, fanboy? All right. So we got our predictions. We got all the big questions out of the way. So now we just got a week to wait. That's all we got to do. We got a week to wait. Next Wednesday at home against the Brooklyn Nets, which should be a lot of fun. Really excited to get the season started. I think this team is going to be exciting to, at the very least, intriguing to watch.
Absolutely, intriguing is a good word. So many questions. And we'll finally get some answers when the games count.
Finally. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining Running the Break podcast with Pacers Insider Cliff Brown. This has been Jim Ayello and Clark Wade, and we'll see you next week.